My husband Pei Yu went to war for 3 years and brought back a girl of suspicious origins. That woman was already 6 months pregnant. The first thing he did upon returning was to use his military merits to ask His Majesty to grant that woman the status of equal wife. He said that woman was an orphan of the former dynasty. Her brother died protecting her secret, and he must use such an honor to secure her heart, so as to protect the greater plan. I stayed up all night writing the divorce papers, taking inventory of my dowry, deciding to retreat in order to advance and fulfill her greater plan. Madam, the inventory of your dowry is complete. Lingsha respectfully presented the account book. It is just that, according to the expenses over these years, the shortfall in the military funds within the manor. I was grinding the ink for the final stroke of the divorce papers. Hearing this, I looked up and gestured for her not to continue. It is just that over these 3 years, to fill the gap in military supplies, the Jingyuan Marquis Manor has indeed used quite a bit of your private funds. I placed the finished divorce papers by the window to dry. Then I stretched my wrist a bit, the ink clearly visible. This gold and silver is merely worldly possessions. The Shen family wouldn't stoop to haggling with him over such trifles. My marriage to Pei Yu was bestowed by His Majesty, but in truth it was a chess piece for the Shen and Pei families to balance each other at court. Speaking of true feelings, it is nothing but duckweed floating on water. Back then, my grandfather was the head of the civil officials. My father inherited his strategic mind, but had no intention of entering military service, rising all the way to the position of Minister of Rights, holding the power of the literati faction. Although Pei Yu's grandfather was Duke Dingguo, renowned throughout the borders, the Pei family's influence in the capital was gradually waning. My father has always despised the crudeness of military men. When His Majesty insisted on arranging this marriage, father even feigned illness overnight, lamenting that marrying me to such a cold and scheming man would surely not end well on our wedding day. He led his troops to war without even drinking the ceremonial wine. Pei Yu has a handsome face and was made a marquis at a young age. Many noble ladies in the capital are smitten with him, all saying how lucky I Shen Qingzhuo am over these 3 years. I've heard so much mockery behind my back, laughing at me for having the title but not the reality, guarding an empty chamber alone. Now he shows such contempt, bringing back a woman of unknown status, wanting to make her an equal wife by military merit, clearly trampling the dignity of the Shen family into the mud. Originally, I only wished for mutual respect and peaceful days, but now it seems this position of Marchioness Jingyuan has become a hot potato. Through the carved lattice window, Pei Yu was carefully guiding that woman by the hand, occasionally stroking her swollen belly. Judging by its size, she must be at least 7 or 8 months along. Pei Yu raised his eyes and glanced toward my window with a complicated look, but it was only for an instant before he was drawn away by that woman's soft, coquettish laughter. Close the window, pay them no mind. I really didn't want this pair to disturb my peace, so I ordered Lingsha to shut the window. That woman seemed to have heard the sound of the window closing. Her body went limp and she fell into Pei Yu's arms. Pei Yu's expression darkened immediately, but he quickly suppressed it. He probably thought I was just jealous and would calm down in a few days, not knowing that I was already scheming how to completely extricate myself. That woman was named Liu Suxin. Pei Yu said her background was complicated. Her brother had died to keep a secret about the border for him. Out of this sense of responsibility, Pei Yu treated Liu Suxin with exceptional indulgence, and feelings grew between them over time. Later on, Liu Suxin became pregnant. Pei Yu felt sorry for her and feared that I, the legitimate daughter of the minister's household, would mistreat her out of jealousy. Thus came the matter of seeking a co-wife status through military merits. Taking concubines is common in official families. Even if he had taken Liu Suxin as a secondary wife, I wouldn't have said much, but he insisted on petitioning the emperor for a co-wife through his illustrious military achievements. This act was intended as a demonstration of power, and even more so to humiliate my Shen family and strip me, Shen Qingqi, of my dignity. I ask you, what legitimate wife in this world could endure such a terrible humiliation? Before we married, Pei Yu was rather respectful toward me. He knew full well that my father looked down on him, so he devoted all his efforts to winning me over and worked especially hard in the military. Only then did he earn my mother's favorable regard. I once mentioned that the pre-rain Longjing tea from the East Market was light and refreshing for digestion. Fearing the flavor would fade if delayed too long on the road, he shamelessly begged the tea shop owner to teach him how to preserve it. Whatever I wanted to try, even in the middle of the night, he would get it for me. Mother said with him treating me this way, and with the Shen family as backing, she didn't expect me to be wealthy or noble, only hoped I'd live a smooth and peaceful life. I never had high expectations for marriage, only wishing for a calm, uneventful life together. I didn't care who I married. But Liu Suxin's appearance completely shattered my former peace. I loved drinking light tea, yet Liu Suxin insisted on drinking rich butter tea, saying light tea was bitter and harmful to the body. From then on, there was no longer any light tea I loved on the tea table. I wanted to seek the fragrance of plum blossoms outside the city, but Liu Suxin wanted to find white magnolias in the south of the city. Pei Yu only said one thing: plum blossoms are cold in nature, fearing it might harm stepmother's pregnancy. So without hesitation, he sent people to find white magnolias. I wanted to eat, but he said to wait until Liu Suxin's condition stabilized before dining with me at the same table. After several tests, I've clearly seen that in his heart, power and scheming outweigh everything. The days ahead would likely never have a moment of peace again. Early the next morning, before I had even risen, I was awakened by Pei Yu's knocking at the door. He wore a black robe, which made his handsome face appear somewhat gloomy and stern. Have all the arrangements for Suxin's entry into the manor been settled? She is an orphan girl. You must prepare more presentable items for her. I felt somewhat impatient inside, after all, being woken before I'd slept enough. Put me in a rather bad mood. Does the Marquis mean for me to use my own dowry to prepare her trousseau? Pei Yu's expression darkened instantly. His tone became extremely unpleasant. Shen Qingzhuo, haven't you had enough of this petty tantrum? Suxin is just an orphan girl. You married me with a grand 10 li procession of dowry. What is wrong with giving her some of it? Besides, she is only entering the manor as a secondary wife. The authority over household affairs is still in your hands. What exactly are you being so petty about? Moreover, you have the entire Marquis manor as your backing, while her brother died for my sake. She has nothing. Shut up, he wanted to continue, but I truly didn't want to hear his excuses anymore. These high-sounding justifications were filthy to my ears. Her brother died saving you. You are the one who should repay this debt. What does it have to do with me, Shen Qingzhuo? You are my wife. The Marquis manor is one entity. Repaying this debt is naturally something we bear together. He shouted at me. The Marquis household is one. What an utter joke. I slapped the table and stood up, meeting his gaze. You not only want me to share the Marquis with her, but also want me to pay for her dowry. No matter how you look at it, I am the one repaying your debt of gratitude. Your face is truly thicker than a city wall. Lingsha hurried forward to help calm me down. Although I had already decided to divorce him, seeing him so shameless still infuriated me. But my words seemed to have given him the wrong idea again. Forget it. You are just caring too much about me. At tonight's victory banquet, I will personally ask the Emperor to bestow Suxin as my secondary wife. As for her entry into the manor, I'll leave that to Mother to arrange. He was actually going to use his military merits to ask for a secondary wife position. Only now did I truly see how much this Liu Suxin weighed in his heart. Seeing that I didn't speak, he continued, There will be many eyes and ears at the palace tonight, so I won't bring you along. Stay home and calm down first. Don't say anything unnecessary about tomorrow's matter. After saying that, he turned and left. I originally thought getting him to sign this divorce paper would take some effort. But now the perfect opportunity was right before my eyes. That evening, I hitched a ride on my father's carriage and quietly entered the palace banquet. The moment Pei Yu saw me, his face nearly contorted with anger. Shen Qingzhuo, what are you doing here? I won't let you hurt Suxin. With that said, he shielded his beloved behind him, afraid I might do something to her. I couldn't be bothered with him, and walked straight toward my father. He grabbed my arm. Shen Qingjua. I am warning you, don't try any tricks. Suxin entering our household is inevitable. I yanked my arm free, not willing to waste any more words on him. You'd better behave yourself. His lowered, threatening voice kept coming from behind me. I was beside my father when the palace banquet officially began, with singing and dancing in celebration. When the performances ended, the emperor finally spoke. Marquis Jingyuan's great victory this time, repeatedly repelling the enemy, quite reminiscent of Duke Dingguo back in the day. What wish do you have this time? Just tell me. Finally, it came to this moment. Pei Yu's face was full of joy as he pulled the 6 months pregnant Liu Suxin and knelt in the center of the great hall. Quite a few noblewomen and officials' wives cast looks of sympathy and anticipation of a good show my way. The news of him bringing Liu Suxin back from the border had long spread throughout the capital, and now kneeling together in this great hall was publicly slapping me in the face. The empress wanted to stop him, but Pei Yu spoke first. Your Majesty, this subject has a daughter of an old friend at the border, whose brother died protecting this subject's secret. Now she is the only relative left alive. He then looked at the person beside him. This subject implores your Majesty to use this military merit to grant her as this subject's equal wife, to protect her and the bloodline in her womb for life. The great hall fell silent. The emperor glanced at my father's ashen old face but didn't rush to speak. With the border unstable now, a talented general like Pei Yu was indispensable, and his military merit indeed deserved a reward. The officials present were all whispering among themselves. Most were expressing indignation on my behalf. Him publicly humiliating me like this. How could my father possibly tolerate it? He directly spoke up in anger, using the guise of repaying a debt to commit such shameless acts. You disgrace my daughter like this. Do you really think I, Shen, am a pushover? Turning his head, my father's tears came streaming down. His acting was absolutely superb. Your Majesty, you must seek justice for this old subject. This old subject only got this one daughter at 50 because of your Majesty's arranged marriage. She had no choice but to marry this cold-hearted brute. On their wedding day, he abandoned his wife to go to war, gone for 3 years. Now he has brought back this pregnant woman a secret pregnancy. This old subject is heartbroken. My father walked straight to the main hall and began to wail loudly. I only have this one daughter. How is she supposed to carry on? How can she show her face in the capital from now on? Several upright officials in court who were close to my father also spoke up one after another about repaying kindness. There are many ways. Giving gold and silver for settlement is fine, or even taking her as a sworn sister, bringing her to the marquise's residence to be properly looked after, and then finding her a respectable family. Fiche, the marquise's actions are nothing but filthy thoughts, wanting to keep this woman for himself, and he insists on putting up the pretense of repaying kindness. Pei Yu was choked until his face turned completely red and hurriedly turned around to explain to everyone, I am not. I didn't. Su Xin and I are truly in love. She is also innocent. Liu Suxin also hurriedly followed behind Pei Yu to explain. Yes, the Marquis treats me with true feelings. He didn't take me by force. Please don't misunderstand, madam. Inside the main hall, with everyone talking over each other, the emperor kept pressing his temples. I seized the right moment and walked in front of Pei Yu and Liu Suxin, and also knelt down in the hall. Shen Qingzhuo, what nonsense are you doing? This is the imperial palace. There is no room for your willfulness. Pei Yu still tried to grab my sleeve and drag me back. Your Majesty, Pei Yu and I were originally a political marriage by imperial decree. Now that the Marquis has found his true love, I am willing to voluntarily request to leave, give up this position of principal wife and divorce the Marquis. From now on, we each marry separately, with no more entanglements. I beseech your Majesty to grant this. The moment my words left my mouth, everyone present was shocked, except for my father, whose aged face instantly broke into a relieved smile. My father nodded and gave me an approving look. Your Majesty, this old minister has only one daughter, and I truly cannot bear to see her suffer endlessly in the Marquise's household in the future. I beg your Majesty to grant a divorce decree, so that from now on my daughter and the Marquis of Jingyuan may part ways amicably, and each find their own peace." The emperor was so troubled, his head felt like it would split, his face full of conflict. But he still asked me, Shen Qingzhuo, "Although you and the Marquis of Jingyuan have no real marital relations, people's words can be fearsome. It will be difficult for you to find a good match in the future. Have you thought this through?" Just as I was about to kowtow in gratitude, Pei Yu yanked me back, then, trembling, looked up at the emperor. "Your Majesty, it was I who failed to handle my family affairs properly and made a joke of things. I have absolutely no intention of divorcing Shen. I will take her away now and will never bring up the matter of equal wife again." Saying so, he tried to drag me outside. At this point, the emperor's expression had also turned unpleasant. Originally, if he just granted me a divorce from Pei Yu and then bestowed a marriage between him and Lu Suxin, the matter would have been resolved satisfactorily, but he just had to make this scene. Looking at the emperor's increasingly dark expression, the empress had no choice but to speak. "Marquis of Jingyuan, one cannot have it both ways. Do you understand this principle?" "I understand." Pei Yu's clothes had already been soaked with cold sweat since the moment His Majesty's face darkened without saying a word. His Majesty waved his hand grandly. "Then I shall bestow a marriage upon you and the Liu woman, granting her the title of secondary lady of Marquis Jingyuan. After all, she didn't give her the status of equal wife." Then he turned to look at me. "I grant Shen Qingzhuo and Marquis Jingyuan a divorce paper. All the dowry brought by Lady Shen must be returned in full without the slightest discrepancy." "Thank you for your Majesty's grace." Pei Yu's expression was extremely ugly, but he had no choice but to accept it. No matter how distinguished Pei Yu's military achievements were, without the support of my Marquis Manor's clean officials in court, his future career path would probably no longer be so smooth. After the banquet ended, I had just stepped out of the palace gate when Pei Yu caught up right behind me. He strode up to me, while Lu Suxin behind him was still cradling her big belly, stumbling as she followed closely behind him. He tried to reach out and grab me again, but was stopped by a cold glare from my father. "Shen Qingzhuo, I really didn't misjudge you. You are nothing but a fraud who relies on the Shen family's power to act like a fox borrowing the tiger's might. Today's divorce was probably premeditated all along. I fell right into the trap set by you, father and daughter." I swung my hand back and slapped him across the face with a crisp smack. "You've only been away on campaign for 3 years, and you already dared to keep a mistress behind my back. Now you even bring back a child and try to force me to elevate her to equal wife status. Pei Yu, Shen Qingzhui, have manners and principles. I won't do something as degrading as making way for a concubine. And another thing, so what if my father holds great power? Aren't you also surnamed P.E.? If you've got the guts, go home and ask your Duke of Dingguo grandfather to back you up. He was so choked by my words that it took him a while to speak." You actually dare to insult my grandfather." Looking at that disgusting face of his made me sick. I raised my hand and gave him another slap. "This slap, I am hitting you on behalf of the Shen family, and on behalf of the position of legitimate wife that you've humiliated." There were still quite a few officials coming and going at the palace gates. He never expected that I would actually dare to hit him in public, and twice at that. This made Pei Yu completely lose face. "You actually dare to publicly assault a court-appointed official, the Marquis of Jingyuan." I looked around at the crowd of people covering their mouths and snickering, and couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Why don't you ask them who saw anything?" Then I strutted off with my father onto the carriage, leaving him and his secondary wife standing there in disarray in the wind. On the carriage, looking at my father's tear-streaked old face, I couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. "What are you laughing at?" My father wiped his face haphazardly with his sleeve. "I told you long ago that this Pei Yu is a cold-blooded, ruthless schemer, but your grandfather just wouldn't believe it. Now look, we've been bullied to this extent." As he spoke, my father started wiping his tears again, his intermittent sobbing filling the entire road. Early the next morning, My mother, along with my 4 older brothers and 4 sisters-in-law, dragged me out of bed together. I sat up with my messy hair bun. What is going on? Naturally, we're going to settle the dowry accounts and completely sever all ties with the Pei family. My eldest brother pulled me right off the bed. Last night when they returned, seeing my father crying uncontrollably, my mother was quite frightened. After hearing him explain the matter of my divorce from Pei Yu, my mother was so angry she couldn't sleep all night, and then told my 4 older brothers about it. The brothers then told the sisters-in-law. The result was that, except for me, the entire family didn't sleep a wink all night settling the dowry accounts. What are you doing with that blade? I pointed at the gleaming sword in my second brother's hand. If Pei Yu dares to keep any of our Shen family's belongings, I'll slaughter him on the spot. This kind of brute only has eyes for profit. We definitely can't let him off easy. My brothers spoke in unison. Only then did I notice that each of them was carrying a handy weapon. I turned my head and found my grandfather standing at the door, leaning on the red-tasseled spear that had accompanied him through many battles. It was all grandfather's fault for misjudging people. Grandfather will get justice for you now. The whole family set off in a mighty procession and knocked on the door of the Jingyuan Marquis Manor. The moment Pei Yu opened the door and saw our Shen family's massive group, he instinctively took 2 steps back, but in an instant he forced himself to appear calm and took 2 steps forward. What is Minister Shen here to raid my Jingyuan Marquis Manor? Wouldn't dare. Grandfather slammed that red-tasseled spear on the stone steps, and my brothers also made way. Why has old Minister Shen come in person? Pei Yu's parents also came out to greet us. Hemp, that fine son you raised bullied my granddaughter like this. How could I not come? I wonder how you raised him, so disrespectful of hierarchy. Not a bit of the demeanor Duke Dingguo had back in the day. Pei Yu's father's face immediately fell. Now, our general's manor and your Shen family are strangers. Old minister doesn't need to come to our door to lecture us. So the fish rots from the head down. No wonder she raised such a profit-driven son. The second young madam pretended to speak quietly, but in reality everyone present heard her crystal clear. The second young madam's words made Pei Yu's entire family's faces turn black as the bottom of a pot. The separation was personally approved by the emperor. I took out the separation papers I had written long ago along with the imperial decree and handed them to Pei Yu, just waiting for him to sign and seal. Seeing the separation papers I handed over, Pei Yu's brows furrowed tightly. He looked at me with a complicated expression. Shen Qingzhuo, deep down, you've always looked down on me, haven't you? Now that you have the chance, you want to kick me far away so you can climb to higher branches. I was really quite speechless. You mean to say that I forced you to hook up with that Liu Suxin and even bring her back to the Marquis Manor? My words instantly ignited Pei Yu's rage. Enough. Suxin and I will be married soon. Stop calling her a mistress to humiliate her. Pei Yu's mother suddenly walked up to me, her eyes brimming with tears as she gently took my hand. I've always treated you as my own daughter. She is just a secondary wife when it comes down to it. She is merely a concubine. Do you really want to separate? Won't you regret it? I pulled my hand away and looked at her with determined eyes. Absolutely no regrets. Why must mother beg him? Suxin carries my bloodline in her belly. If she refuses to tolerate a cast-off jealous woman, let's see which family would dare marry her in the future. Pei Yu stiffened his neck, speaking with great arrogance, completely ignoring his mother's attempts to stop him. You needn't trouble yourself with that. My mother had been standing aside, unable to listen any longer. She pulled out a brush from somewhere and threw it in front of Pei Yu. Things have come to this point. You'd better sign this divorce paper quickly, lest you delay the Jingyuan Marquise's new marriage. Me dowry has already been inventoried by Lingsha. Once the divorce paper is signed, it will be transported back to the Shen residence. Looking at the dowry inventoried in the courtyard, my second brother spoke with sarcasm. Who would have thought that the famous General Pei of the illustrious Jingyuan Marquis Manor would secretly misappropriate his daughter-in-law's dowry? What a disgrace to military officers! What nonsense are you spouting? Shen Qingzhuo voluntarily contributed all of it. Pei Yu's mother stepped forward to cover my brother's mouth, but my second brother was too tall for her to reach. TSK, TSK. The Grand Marquis Manor needs a daughter-in-law's private funds to cover military supplies. Could it be they had their eyes on my sister's dowry from the very beginning? Quite a few onlookers had gathered at the entrance, and now they all began pointing and whispering about Pei Yu, making his face flush red with shame. Shut up, Shen Zhuoshuo. It was always you who said you wanted to show filial piety to my mother, but now you are coming up with excuses to take it back. Tell me how much is missing, and I'll pay you back to the last cent. Half of it has already been spent, and I've never seen any mother-in-law who expects filial piety like this. The second young madam ordered people to load the dowry onto the cart. We'll settle the accounts another day and report the numbers to Marquis Jingyuan. There is a happy occasion at home today, so we won't disturb you further. After saying that, the second young madam pulled me and walked back. My mother used to say that although the second young madam was feisty, she was very sensible. I didn't expect her to be so righteous, too. As soon as we reached the gate, I saw my boudoir friend Zhao Ying stretching her neck, waiting for me, holding a pile of something in her arms. How did you move so fast? I didn't even get to go to the Marquise's mansion to back you up. Zhao Ying tilted her head and saw the huge crowd behind me, and my grandfather, over 70 years old, holding a red tasseled spear, walking at the very front. She scratched her head. Seems like there is no need for me now. Then, she couldn't wait to take out the treasure she'd been holding in her arms to show me. What are all these? I asked curiously, his face full of excitement. Of course they're portraits of the most powerful young masters from noble families in the capital. This time we'll keep our eyes wide open and pick one who can crush Pei Yu. I just got divorced. There is no need to rush like this, right? But before I knew it, the crowd behind me had already opened the portraits and started picking for themselves. I know this young master Li. I heard he is quite a decent person with an elegant temperament. This youngest son of Vice Minister Liu is also not bad. He holds real power in the Ministry of Revenue, but these portraits don't really look clear. It would be great if we could see them in person. Then let Qingzhuo pick carefully. Everyone chimed in one after another, completely forgetting that I was a woman who had just divorced. I took a deep breath and grabbed Zhao Yingyi, who was chatting enthusiastically with my mother. Good sister, I am a discarded woman now. People in the capital are avoiding me like the plague. Zhao Yingyi's eyes instantly went wide and round. Who dares you, Shen Qingzhuo, initiated the divorce yourself? That Pei Yu is the one who is cast aside like worn-out shoes by the Shen family. If my daughter hadn't been held back by Pei Yu, marrying a prince or royal grandson would be them marrying up. My mother also chimed in. The two of them walked side by side, looking at portraits as they walked, with no intention of asking me at all. Sigh, this one's good. This young lord is said to have an extremely aloof temperament and doesn't fancy women. I also think this one is good. Handsome appearance, aloof and composed. He has the temperament of a scholar, yet doesn't lack the steadiness of a military officer. Not bad. A good match for Qingzhuo. Several sisters-in-law, along with my mother and Zhao Ying, simultaneously picked up a portrait. I curiously leaned in to look. The person in the portrait wore a plain-colored official robe with an extremely handsome appearance, even more good-looking than my ex-husband Pei Yu. Most importantly, that aloof and distant temperament of hers was very similar to that grand censor of the censorate who held the power of life and death that I had seen at court. I nodded. Indeed, not bad. Just don't know which family's heir this is. So you are saying you like him? Several pairs of eyes simultaneously lit up with a strange gleam. I kept feeling something was off. What is the use if I like him? I've already been married once. The other person has to be interested in me too. Zhao Yingij excitedly grabbed the other scrolls and ran out, turning her head back to shout at me while running. He'll definitely be interested. I'll go arrange it right now. 3 days later, Zhao Ying specially organized a poetry society gathering, ostensibly to admire plum blossoms, but actually to host a banquet for me. At the gathering, quite a few noble family ladies and young misses pointed and whispered about me. They said I was just a divorced woman yet still dared to show my face in public, not afraid of being laughed at. They said the Shen family's upbringing was lax, and if it were them, they should have long secluded themselves from society to avoid ruining their maiden family's reputation. There were also people who kept talking about the recent situation of Pei Yu and Liu Suxin, trying to use this to provoke me, someone who once made them green with envy. I heard that Marquis Jingyuan is now busy appeasing that concubine and is somewhat struggling to handle court affairs. Zhao Yingyi was so annoyed that she was about to flare up on the spot, but I held her back. Forget it. Yingji mouths grow on other people's faces. Let them say whatever they want to say. It is not like we'll lose a piece of flesh. She brought me to a pavilion with an excellent view to drink tea. The position was quite good, just right to see clearly that group of refined young masters engaged in elegant conversation. How come I don't see the one from the painting? I looked carefully at that group of young masters, then turned to Zhao Yingji winked, and made faces at me saying, "Don't you also think he is 100 times better than that Pei Yu?" I carefully recalled the appearance of that person in the painting. Speaking of looks, he was indeed quite good. My type, I glanced at Zhao Yingge's gossipy face. After taking a sip of tea, I continued speaking. I just don't know what his family background is like, and whether others would look favorably upon me, a woman who has been married before. There was no actual husband-wife relationship between me and Pei Yu. Moreover, I am the legitimate daughter of the minister's residence, so remarrying isn't difficult. It is just that these rumors and gossip are somewhat bothersome. If I don't agree to meet this person, I am afraid there'll be a flower appreciation banquet waiting for me every 3 days from now on. Whose son is this person? How come I've never seen him before? Before Zhao Yingzhi could answer, Pei Yu's voice reached my ears. Shen Qingzhuo, are you really that desperate for company? It has only been 5 days since our divorce, and you are already rushing to find someone new. He paused, then turned his rather handsome profile toward me. I didn't think things through before. We were married for 3 years but never consummated. If this bothered you, you could have just told me directly. If you come with me to the government office now to revoke the divorce, I'll make it up to you tonight, and I'll never mention the secondary wife matter again. When he said this, it seemed like he had made a tremendous decision, but Liu Suxin beside him instantly stiffened, her eyes filled with resentment and malice. The Marquise of Jingyuan's thick skin should really be given to the Ministry of Works for building materials guaranteed to be impenetrable and last 1,000 years. A cold, slightly mocking male voice came from outside the pavilion, every word striking true, carrying an unmistakable authority. A man in plain official robes walked past Pei Yu and positioned himself directly between me and him, blocking Pei Yu off. "Who are you? How dare you meddle in the affairs of the Marquis of Jingyuan?" Pei Yu's face completely lost its composure as he looked at the man who exuded an air of superiority from start to finish. "Cousin, you are finally here." Zhao Yingge excitedly rushed over and smilingly linked her arm with the man's. Cousin, as everyone knows. Zhao Yingge's the legitimate daughter of the Duke of Zhengguo's mansion. Her cousin was no ordinary person. Both Pei Yu and I were taken aback. But in just a moment, a mocking expression appeared on Pei Yu's face. Everyone knows that the young master from the Zhao residence has been living in seclusion outside for years, not concerning himself with worldly affairs to help Shen Qingzhuo anger me. She actually made up such a lie. Living in seclusion outside for years, not concerning himself with worldly affairs, was all for today's decisive moment. Marquise P. You should know who I am. The man in plain robes slightly raised his chin and spoke casually. Seeing Pei Yu still looking disbelieving, he added coldly, I am the heir of Prince Cheng Shaojinyan. Do you have a problem with that? Just then, the Duchess of Zhengguo walked over and affectionately took my hand. So this is Qingzhuo. What a spirited good child. It is just that some blind people couldn't recognize her worth before. After saying this, she gave Pei Yu a meaningful look, and anyone with eyes knew who she was talking about. But no matter, I have a nephew who happens to be here today. He has a cold temperament, and you two would be a good match. get to know each other quickly." She turned and pulled the man in plain robes over, pushing him in front of me. "This is my nephew, the heir of Prince Cheng, Xiao Jinyan." He cupped his hands and bowed to me, his posture noble and refined. "Congratulations to Miss Shen for escaping the sea of suffering and finally gaining freedom. Thank you, Your Highness." Zhao Yingzhi let out a scornful laugh. "Some people don't know what they're still doing here. Can't they see how much of an eyesore they are? Or does Marquis Jingyuan want to stand here and let everyone see your pathetic state after being divorced?" Pei Yu didn't expect this person was really the heir of Prince Cheng's manor. She didn't expect him to be so aggressive. She wanted to say something more, but was swept by Xiao Jinyan's cold gaze and had to shut her mouth, leaving dejectedly with Lu Suxin. To create an opportunity for me and Xiao Jinyan to be alone together, Zhao Yingzhi made an excuse about looking for plum blossoms and left first with the madam of Zhengguo Duke's manor. "He was married before. Don't you mind?" I raised the doubt in my heart. Whether it was the portrait that day or today's elegant gathering, everything seemed carefully arranged. I originally thought it was Zhao Yingge who arranged it, but now thinking about it, it must be this heir of Prince Cheng's manor before me. Miss Shen requested the divorce herself. How can it be called having been married? He tucked his hands in his sleeves, somewhat scoffing at my words. Just because you took one wrong step, you think of yourself as trash in a muddy swamp. Miss Shen, such a narrow mindset doesn't seem befitting of Minister Shen's daughter. But how could Prince Cheng's manor accept a woman like me with a marriage history? Reasonably speaking, it wouldn't be hard for me to remarry an ordinary person, but Prince Cheng's manor is beyond my reach. I told my mother that if I can't marry Miss Shen in this life, I will never enter officialdom and will spend my days with ancient Buddha and oil lamps. Then my mother agreed. When he said this, his face was completely calm, as if waiting for my response. "Then, why do you want to marry me?" I was somewhat confused. In my memory, I had never crossed paths with this heir of Prince Cheng's manor, and we had never had any private contact. He sighed, his expression somewhat helpless. "When you were young, you went to the temple with your mother to burn incense. I was studying in the side courtyard with my uncle. You secretly slipped me a note that read, 'Shen family's Qingzhuo, willing to trade her dowry for the young lord's lifelong peace.' From that moment, I remembered you. A note." He flicked a finger against my forehead, the gesture too intimate for a young lord. "You remembered it wrong. It clearly said, 'If the young lord is willing to marry Qingzhuo, I am willing to offer a grand dowry to assist him.'" When he said that, I seemed to recall something like that happening. But I remember the note saying the young lord was as handsome as Panan, and Qingzhuo wished to marry him. "Ahem, ahem." He covered his mouth and coughed twice, looking a bit awkward. "Anyway, because of that note, I've remembered you all these years now that you are divorced. You happen to need a husband, and I need a principal wife. We're a perfect match." Early the next morning, Princess Cheng came to propose with lavish betrothal gifts. Father and mother were afraid I wouldn't agree, so they stalled, saying they needed to ask my opinion first. "Father, mother, I'll marry him," I answered without hesitation. Me father thought I was afraid of offending the Cheng prince's manor by refusing, and said, "Daughter, if you don't want to marry, then don't. Father isn't afraid of any prince's manor." I patted my father's shoulder. "Oh, father, you have no idea. That young Lord Xiao is so handsome and elegant, like a jade tree in the breeze, simply incomparable to Pei Yu. Moreover, I heard he is the imperial relative most favored by the current emperor. Marrying me would definitely make our Shen family's position in court even more secure. I am not losing out." When my parents and several brothers and sisters-in-law heard this, they all thought what I said made sense. They immediately replied to the princess consort of Cheng, and my marriage with Xiao Jinyan was thus settled, with the wedding date set on the same day as Pei Yu's ceremony to take in his secondary wife. As luck would have it, when Xiao Jinyan accompanied me to the Golden Jade Pavilion to purchase jewelry, we ran into Pei Yu again, also with Lu Suxin. The capital is only so big, you can't avoid running into people. I was about to pull Xiao Jinyan away when Pei Yu beat me to it and blocked our path. Shenqing Zhuo, you are truly fickle. It has only been a few days since our divorce, and you are already so eager to be with another man, or perhaps before I returned, you two were already secretly involved. Slap. Before I could react, Xiao Jinyan had already slapped Pei Yu across the face. The force was so great that red, swollen finger marks instantly appeared on Pei Yu's face. Shut your mouth. Does the Marquis of Jingyuan think everyone is like you, having illicit affairs without a matchmaker, and secretly getting someone pregnant? The other guests passing by also laughed along. The news of my divorce from Pei Yu had spread far and wide, and everyone had heard the reasons clearly. Now he still had the audacity to slander me and Xiao Jinyan, but unfortunately my new husband had quite a temper, and his status was noble, so no one dared to stop him. This Shen Qingzhuo sure is lucky. She lost Pei Yu, that power-hungry brute, but gained the incomparably noble heir of Prince Cheng. The young lord is not only handsome, I heard he even left the monastery and returned to secular life specifically for Miss Shen. Now that is true devotion. Ah, I am so envious. If only I had such good luck. The discussions around them made Pei Yu's face turn pale and flushed alternately. Liu Suxin also felt she couldn't save face, so she tugged at his sleeve and pulled him outside. After the two left, Xiao Jinyan wrapped up all the jewelry I had just tried on to cheer me up. I suddenly felt like my fate was actually pretty good. The day before the wedding, Zhao Yingzhi came running to tell me that Liu Suxin had given birth. Wasn't her due date still 2 months away? Could it be a premature birth? Zhao Ying shook her head, unable to hide the delight on her face. I heard it was a full-term birth, and Pei Yu's face turned dark on the spot. He threw that child onto the ground. Must have been cuckolded and lost a ton of face. Truly karma, who would have thought that Pei Yu would have a day when he'd be schemed against by others. Zhao Ying was giggling non-stop beside me. If you didn't know better, you'd think Pei Yu was her mortal enemy. I also heard that before. That woman gave birth. She pretended to accidentally fall, trying to use that as an excuse for a premature birth, but who knew the baby would come out even bigger than a full-term one? How do you know all this so clearly? Usually this kind of scandal in a marquise's household would be tightly covered up by the family. How could others have heard about it? The young lord specifically went to Jingyuan Marquis Manor today to deliver gifts and happened to catch this scene. With my cousin's mouth, who could keep him quiet? He told me as soon as he came back. Zhao Yingge was chattering on and on non-stop. When Lingsha ran in to report that Pei Yu had come to our manor to offer a humble apology, carrying thorns on his back and kneeling at the front gate, and he even brought his mother along. Offering a humble apology with thorns. I've heard of that. But bringing his mother along, this is the first time I've seen that. Hurry and drive them away. What bad luck. When I got to the front gate, the second young madam was picking up a broom ready to chase them off. She knew full well that today was the eve of my big happy day and couldn't tolerate the slightest bit of bad luck. With his little stunt, the entrance of the Shangshu mansion was packed with onlookers. When they saw me come out, people around couldn't help but tease, saying the Marquis Jingyuan got cuckolded and, unwilling to accept it, came specially to beg Miss Shen to change her mind and restore his authority as a husband. Pei Yu wanted to angrily curse at that person, but seeing me come out, he hurriedly ran toward me carrying the thorny branches on his back. The second young madam was incredibly quick to react, sweeping a broom across the threshold. Marquis Jingyuan, what a rare guest. If you have something to say it here. My younger sister is to marry the Crown Prince of Cheng tomorrow, so she mustn't get any bad luck on her. He had no choice but to stop outside the door and began his confession, saying clearly, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I know you are just angry because I was going to marry Liu Suxin. Don't worry, I won't marry her anymore. Will you come back with me? Let's go to the government office and withdraw the divorce papers. From now on, you'll be my only one. I absolutely won't take any concubines, and I'll never let the Shen family down. He raised his right hand, held up 3 fingers, and swore to heaven. His appearance was as sincere could be, but there was a trace of urgency hidden in his eyes. Yes, it is all his fault. Good daughter-in-law, just come back with us. Don't worry, as long as I am alive, I'll never let him think about that concubine again. Pei Yu's mother also hurried forward, stepping around the broom, and affectionately took my hand. Those who didn't know would really think she was some kind of loving mother-in-law. Get out, you are not welcome at the Shen residence. My mother had rushed over at some point and shoved Pei Yu's mother out. Your son left on the wedding day and didn't come back for 3 years yet. You old hag kept saying my daughter couldn't bear children. You kept finding ways to persuade my daughter to let your son take a concubine. When you saw your son bring that slut back, you couldn't stop grinning. Now that your son has lost face and been cuckolded, you want my daughter to go back and clean up his mess. Just looking at you two makes me sick. After my mother finished her tirade, she ordered the servants to close the main gate. Pei Yu kept shouting at the gate, begging for my forgiveness. So my mother had someone splash a few basins of soapy foot washing water at the gate, and only then did the two at the gate quiet down. Unexpectedly the next day, Pei Yu brought the tortured and wretched-looking Lu Suxin and blocked my wedding sedan. Qingzhuo, I brought her here. As long as you agree to come back with me, I'll kill her right now to vent your anger. I swear from now on I'll follow your lead in everything. I wanted to get out of the sedan and say a few words, but the matchmaker said it would be bad luck and pushed me back in. Pei Yu, you really are too much. You were the one who used your military merits to ask for her hand in marriage, and now you are the one threatening to beat and kill her. Even I can't tell if you have any sincerity at all. What else is in your heart besides power? Pei Yu completely ignored Xiao Jinyan's scolding, begging me for forgiveness over and over again in front of my bridal sedan. Seeing that I paid him no attention, he actually stabbed a knife through Lu Suxin's heart. Look, I've already killed this slut. Won't you please come back with me? I'll hand over all the military power to you. I lifted the curtain, just about to speak. I saw Xiao Jinyan had already dismounted and was standing in front of the bridal sedan. He kicked Pei Yu to the ground, cursing non-stop. Today is my big day. Not only did you block my bridal sedan, you even killed someone in the street. Your methods are vicious. Your heart deserves death. After saying that, still not satisfied, he kicked him twice more, then ordered the accompanying imperial guards to drag away Pei Yu and Liu Suxin's corpse. Qingzhuo, I did all this for you, Pei Yu, being dragged away, was still unwillingly shouting. I really couldn't stand listening anymore. Pei Yu, a selfish man like you who only cares about power, only thinks of yourself, you came here today to put on this act. Isn't it because the Jingyuan Marquis Manor's military supplies have completely run dry, and you are anxious for this money bag to go back and provide grain for your family? As soon as I spoke, it made the crowd of onlookers around us burst into laughter, and the bridal sedan was lifted up again amidst the laughter. There were finally no more shouts from Pei Yu behind me. Later, I heard from Xiao Jinyan that Pei Yu had killed someone in the street with cruel methods. The emperor was furious and stripped him of his title as Marquis of Jingyuan, sentencing him to guard the bitter cold border for life, never to return to the capital. Even later, I heard that the biological father of Lu Suxin's child was the son of some former dynasty's loyalist official. After learning that Lu Suxin and the child had both been killed by him, he ambushed Pei Yu at night and broke one of his legs, ruining what could have been a promising career. He could only spend the rest of his life hobbling on a crutch at the border, left to fend for himself. At time, I was carrying my 8-month pregnant belly, leaning in the arms of my noble, handsome, and attentive husband, listening to him recount the trivial matters of the court, smiling and chatting happily.